This technique I'm going to explain is a technique that will allow us to bypass the heap protections of Windows XP Service Pack 3 and Service Pack 2 obviously, and the Windows 2003 Service Pack blah blah blah. As all the good techniques, I don't really believe in techniques that born by just doing research. I like the techniques that work with a challenge. Like, there was a technique that we were trying to exploit a divinity attack on it was back in Windows 2000, in 2004. It was a bug on an NMTP server, and this is how we have this challenge. We have this bug that was really hard to exploit it, and since we have this challenge, we try to do to find a technique that will allow us to exploit this specific bug. So here's a little bit of the point of the presentation. I'm a journalist student, and one of the things that they teach us there is that every good story has to to answer the 5 W questions: what, why, where, who, and how. And so this slide here is my answer to the question why. Why developing a technique for a specific bug? And the answer to that is because when we are writing exploit, at least at Unity, another commercial company, we try to make our exploit commercial grade. And this is not against like public exploit. In fact, there are really good public exploit. The point here is that when I say commercial exploit, I'm talking about commercial grade exploit. What are commercial grade exploit? Are exploit that have some development, have some investing time in techniques, in making universal, in doing QA on the exploit, such as it gets a great percentage of successfully every time you run it. So this is a little bit of why we develop new techniques when we can. So, going back to the Windows heap. What is the Windows heaps? The Windows heap is a mechanism, an algorithm that allows us to allocate, reallocate, and free memory. I guess pretty much all here are, at some point, or developers, right? Or at least write at least 5 lines of code. So the point of the heap is, whenever you are writing a server or writing your own program, sometimes you need to allocate memory dynamically. For example, if you are on a HTTP server, you're creating your own HTTP server, and you're getting, as one of the commands, the get command, you're getting the file name that we want to serve on that web server. That file name will change depending on what's inside that web server. And so the name of the file will be dynamically created by the person trying to access that web server. And so to allocate that memory inside your program, you need something that allows you to allocate memory dynamically. And that's where the heap was created for. And well, obviously there are much more technical details about that, but I'm trying, again, to make it as simple as possible. Then, in the case of the Windows heap, because the heap is a pretty much universal algorithm, and almost every operating system had it. In the case of Windows heap, the main algorithm is on RTL allocate heap, on a DLL called ntdll.dll. And they have many wrappers, like global alloc, etc., etc. Why is that important? Why is the heap so important? If you just go into Internet Explorer and you access google.com, you will see that there are 23,588 heap functions being executed. Allocation, reallocation, free of the heap. And so it's used quite a lot. So in the past, researchers have been exploiting the heap by trying to take advantage of what is called the unlink technique. This unlink technique will allow you to write 4 bytes wherever you want inside a process. And why is that good? Because you end up writing, for example, a function pointer with the address of your shellcode, and then when that function gets triggered, you get your shellcode trigger. Okay? And so you get shellcode execution, which is what we do on exploits. And I'm going to explain really fast what the unlink do. Basically, on the heap, each time you allocate some memory, for example, to put your file name, you ask the heap for the memory. And the heap algorithm, what it's going to do is trying to find if they already have what is called a chunk in order to allocate that memory. A chunk basically is a piece of memory. The heap basically maintains a list of small pieces of memory that are not being used, and then whenever someone says, okay, I need 20 bytes for the string hello, well, they will go and find if they have a 20 bytes chunk, a 20 bytes piece of memory that can return to your program, so you can use it for write hello. And so, there are two types of chunks. One of the chunks is the busy chunk, and the other one is the free chunk. Free chunks are the chunks that are there just waiting to you request them, and the busy chunks are the chunks that you are using actively. So basically, the idea of the unlink technique was to override a chunk, such as when you request that memory out of the heap algorithm, what's going to do is going to take it out. But since you modify it, some magic is going to happen. So now I'm going to need the help of free volunteers. Can I have free volunteers from the audience? If you want to come. Can I have free volunteers, please? Alright, thank you very much. I have some community magnet for the volunteers. One more? I need one more volunteer. Come on, man. Thank you very much. Let's give the volunteers a round of applause, please. Alright, so the idea of the heap is that on the heap we have a free chunk. The free persons are free chunks. And each free chunks of the same size are connected between each other. He's cheating. So basically they're connected backwardly and forwardly. So can you put like that? No, just they have like that. Your hand, raise, point. And Andrew is also pointing here. And Andrew will be pointing to the next one, and you will be pointing to Andrew. This is how the unlink works. So whenever I want to grab a chunk, I have to follow the different chunks, find the pointers. These are pointers. So the basic idea is that the algorithm doesn't see the whole picture. He just see when I want to allocate 40 bytes, and I say, okay, I'm going to get this specific chunk. Now, whenever you override Andrew, what is going to happen? Well, sorry, let's start with the not override. Whenever I want to grab a chunk out of the free list, I'm going to grab Andrew and will say, okay, based on the link backward and forward, I'm going to make based on that information, he will make him point to him, and then he will be pointing to him. So that's why how I grab Andrew out of my unlinked list. Okay? They are connected to each other. I took the hands of Andrew, and I will, based on that information, I will know where the backward chunk is and the forward chunk is. So now, keep prepared. So now, what I'm going to do is the following. I'm going to modify Andrew such as I change the backward and the forward link. And the only information I have is what Andrew told me. So what I'm going to do is unlink Andrew, but the information that I know where he is and he is, I just modify it. I modify the forward and the backward link. So they will continue pointing to him. Because when I'm trying to disconnect it, I only take the information based on what Andrew showed me. Okay? So basically what I'm going to do is try to unlink, but instead of connecting Andrew being connected to him and connected to him, he'll be connected to whatever address I want. And then I'm going to force a write form. Thank you very much, guys. So that's basically how the write form. Alright. I promise that's the only demo I will do. So I was saying the heap has what we call list of connected chunks. So for each size, going from the size 8 to 1018, we have an entry on a structure called free list. Why do we have this list? Because when I want to grab a chunk of a specific size, I just go directly into the entry to find out where my free chunks are. So for example, if I want to allocate a chunk of 24 bytes, I have to find the index related to 24 bytes, which in this case is free. Why is free? Because it's 24 divided by 8. The smallest amount that a chunk can have is 8 bytes. And it's aligned by 8 bytes. So this is how the heap algorithm improved their speed. Because they have, again, like an array of entries, and each entry is related to the size. Now, what will happen if, when I'm trying to find a free chunk, for example, on the entry 2, which is for the byte 16, there is no chunk at all. What the algorithm do is have an extra structure that is called free list in use, which is what we call a bitmask. So basically, on this structure, I have one bit set for every entry on the free list that has at least one chunk free in there. So when the RTL allocate algorithm, when the allocation algorithm on the heap try to grab a chunk of, let's say, 16 bytes, and it checks the entry number 2, because 16 divided by 8 is 2, it will try to go here, and it find out that there's nothing there. So what it's going to do, instead of searching one per one, it's going to go to this structure that tells, okay, on the entry 3, you have at least one. On the entry 4, nothing, 5, nothing, 6, nothing. So instead of going one per one, it's just going to go to Bitmask and improve the speed, because these are only bits, and it's just check it fastly than going one per one, checking where is the empty free chunk. Okay? So this is how the free list works, and this is what we're going to try to exploit on this technique today. I think it's speaking too fast and the translator can hate me. So this is how the free list look on the debugger. As you can see here, you have all the entries on the free list. These are all chunks, and they're all connected between each other, like Andrew and the other guys. And then upstairs we have like a free list in use, and we have a 0 or a 1 for each of the entries that has at least one free chunk on it. No, just read that. Once you guys done, I'm going to start with the analogies. And as analogy, I tried to use one of the best Brazilian soccer player, Lula da Silva. So the idea is, for each entry, we have a Pelé. And for a specific entry, if Pelé has at least one Lula inside their list, he will raise the flag. Meaning, okay, at this specific entry, he raised the flag and said, at this specific slot, I have at least one Lula. Okay? That is how it works. Basically, Pelé is just telling you if there is an entry there or not. So, going back to the bag again. The bag where we work was an old bag found by two Argentinians. One of them is here. Juliano Rizzo is the one making the CTF. Lucas Lavarello is not here, sadly. Basically, it was an expat, a command, which could lead into a heap override. The hard thing here was that it only allowed us to write 2 bytes. The overflow was only 2 bytes, but not whatever we want. So the problem here was that when we do a 2 bytes override of the next chunk, think that these are 2 chunks between each other. If I only write 2 bytes, I end up only modifying the size. This is 2 bytes long. This one is another 2 bytes long. This is 4 bytes. This is 4 bytes. So when I overwrite only 2 bytes, I only modify the size. And that was the real challenge. What can I do well, the only thing I can do is modify the size of the chunk. I cannot modify the forward and the backward link as we did on the online trick. Okay? So we modify the size, and when we were working on that technique, we thought like, well, what we can do by just modifying to that. A lot of different tricks came to our mind, but they were even harder to implement. And I'm not going to explain, but the explanation of those tricks is going to be long. So what we thought is, let's try to create a new technique. And each time we think about a new technique at Immunity, we use our Sinanaran strawberry pollen law. What's the idea? If the technique you're developing takes too much requirements, it's useless. Because a technique that takes too much requirements will need a lot of targets, and in the end, it's not going to be universal. And we don't want that. We want to hack everything without doing much work. So, now going back to the technique again, let me tell you a little bit of how the freelist in use work. As I said before, the Bitmask work this way. When they have a chunk inside their the entry, we have a pellet raising a flag. When there is no chunk in that entry, we have a pellet lowering the flag. Okay? So, when does pellet actually raise the flag? When we have a free list of when we have a free list which is empty, and we are going to put a new flag, a new chunk there. That means we have a chunk being busy, and we're going to free it, and to free it, we're going to put it on the free list, because we are not using that chunk anymore. So what we do is, we take that chunk, put it on the free list, and what's going to happen is that, since there's no chunk there, Pele is going to raise the flag. To say, okay, now we have a flag in here. And this is how we look in the structure. So, at the entry free, we'll have nothing at all. But now we are free in a chunk of 24 bytes. 24 divided by 8 is 3. So I'm going to go to the slot 3. And the slot 3 is empty. So since I'm going to introduce a new chunk here, I'm going to set the bit number 3. And that's where Pele raised the flag. So when does Pele lower the flag? When I only have one chunk on a heap, on a free list entry, and I grab it. I say, okay, I want to allocate a chunk of 24 bytes. I want to allocate a chunk of 24 bytes. Okay, I allocate it, I get it from this place, and since there's not going to be any more free chunks here, what I'm going to do is to clean the entry number 3, because there aren't going to be any more lulas in that free list entry. To do that, what the algorithm do is use an instruction called SOR. Basically, the SOR is a logic structure, and the only thing that we care about this structure is the following. We give to that bit a 1, and then we SOR it with the entry of the free list, in this case, entry number 3, and if it's 1, it's going to be transformed into 0. And the same thing, if it's 0, and we do 1, SOR 0, it's going to be transforming into 1. Okay? So the basic idea is that if we want to unset a Belay, basically we send a 1 to the entry 3, we SOR with a 1 the entry 3, and it will be empty. And when we want to set it, we're going to do a 1 in the entry 3, and since it's 0, it's going to be 1. And that's how you unset bits. And that's how the heap set unset bit. So by now you're probably getting a little bit of the idea of what we are going to do. And well, let's continue this. So basically, now going to the technique, these are the requirements of the technique. The idea is to play with the heap, such as when we do the override, the chunk we are overriding has to be a free chunk. And the size we are modifying has to be, first of all, less than 1024, which is pretty common. It's part of the free list. And it has to be the only chunk on that free slot. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but when you learn how to work with the heap and allocate stuff, these requirements are pretty simple. The hard requirement is when you need fixed addresses, at least on exploits. So basically, we have the only chunk on a free list. I think I have a free list. Yeah. So we have a free list. So we have a free list, and we only have one chunk in that free list, and then we overflow this chunk and modify the size. Okay? Now the trick is going to be the following. We modify the size, so in an example I'm going to show you, we have a chunk of 184 bytes, okay? Which is at the index 17, because 184 divided by 8 is 17 in hex. So we overflow that chunk, and we modify the size to a different one, a bigger one, being, for example, 992, okay? So now we have one chunk on a free list of size 992, because we modified the size field, and then what we're going to do is going to try to allocate. We overflow it with 992 instead of 194, overflow 992. And now what we're going to do is we're going to try to force an allocation of 184. Why 184? Because the chunk that we are modifying is still connected to the entry 17. So when I allocate, no matter that I change the size, but the connection is still there. I didn't change the forward and the backward link. I only changed the size. But we have, again, only 2 bytes override. So I modify the size, I make it bigger. Before it was 184, now I make it 992. And basically, when I allocate, what the algorithm is going to do, it's going to say, okay, is this the last chunk in this free list? Yes, it was. Remember that one of the requirements was to make this chunk being the only chunk on a free list. So when I modify the size, they're going to ask, is this the last chunk on this free list? Yes, it is. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to clean the bit, because since it's only the chunk, and I'm allocating, the free list is going to be empty, at least at entry 17. But the thing is that we modify the size. So the sort, the cleaning, is not going to be on the size 184. Instead, it's going to be on the size 9094. And so what the algorithm is going to do? It's going to modify the entry 7C, which was 184 divided by, 992 divided by 8. I'm going to set a 1. So now we have this interesting thing. We have a free list, which is empty. Okay? Why? Because, as I said before, all the sorting is being done with 1. But the algorithm thinks that the entry is 1, but it's not, it's 0, because it's not being used. I just modify the size to make it be 7C. So basically what we're doing, we are having a Bitmask list that is set on as if there was a chunk there, but there is no chunk there. The interesting part here is that when I allocate a chunk of 992, the algorithm will try to find a chunk there. It will say, no, there is no chunk there. But I will try to continue find other chunks. And to continue finding other chunks, it's going to check the free list induced Bitmask. And he will find out that we have a 1 at the entry 7C. And this is good, because what it's going to do is going to try to return to me, instead of a chunk, it's going to return to me the address of the free list. Why the address of the free list? Because all the empty chunks on the free list point to itself. This is 150550 is pointing to the free list itself. Okay? So I set the entry 7C to be 1. Now I'm trying to allocate a chunk here, but there's no chunk at all. So I'm taking the same free list as my own chunk. And why is this good? Because instead of instead of returning a real chunk, is returning the free list. And the free list has a lot of important information, such as a function pointer called RTL commit routine, which we can override and start executing shell code. Why is this entry interesting? Because on XP Service Pack 3 and 2003, the last service pack, which I don't remember what it is, at the allocation time, it doesn't check the heap cookie, and also it doesn't affect ASLR, because at the point that we are overwriting the function pointer, we are not using any fixed address. Obviously, we will be using a fixed address whenever we want that function pointer to point to a shell code. That's another problem. It's not part of the technique. But related to the technique, you don't have any fixed address, and you don't have to care about the heap cookie. Just to let you know, the heap cookie is a cookie they introduced on Windows Windows XP Service Pack 2. And basically what they do is, each time they do a fix with the heap, it checks if the cookie was modified or not. That cookie is a random value that is created per heap. So, in the end we have 2 bytes override on a chunk, and then with only 2 control allocations, we end up having 1 reliable exploit. And, well, there are other, from this technique, the technique was originally developed on Windows 2000, but when we start looking at the alternatives and the technique itself, we figured out that we can exploit XP with that, we can exploit Windows 2003 with that. Another thing is that, okay, there are variations of the technique. One of the variations of the technique was presented by John Nicolas and Chris Basalek on Black Hat this year in Vegas. And basically what they say is that, what if we make the fixed chunks be bigger than the free list? The trick is we make the size bigger than the free list. The algorithm doesn't control where the free list ends, so they end up writing storing 1 bit on wherever they want. And the trick was to do it on the RTL commit routine. And finally, the last alternative of this technique is that instead of, if we can write more than 2 bytes, let's say 16 bytes, we will overwrite all the chunk and modify the forward and the backward link to be pointed to each other, or to the same address, not each other, sorry, to the same address. So basically, when the algorithm sees that it's pointing to each other, he will think that is the last chunk on a heap. So we take a requirement out, the requirement that said that the chunk that we need to override has to be the last chunk on the free list. If we don't care if this chunk is the last one on the free list entry, because we make the forward link and the backward link point to each other, and the algorithm thinks that is the last chunk where it is or might not. So basically, I'm not doing the demo because we don't have time. Basically, it's an exploit working with this technique. Just considerations. Luckily, or sadly for me, Windows Vista and Windows 7 are protected because they re-implemented the heap and they did a really good job. Basically, they add per heap key encryption on the whole, or at least on the first 4 or 8 bytes of the chunk header, and they check each time they use the chunk. And well, the thing is that there are some variations that might be possible related with the free list in use, because in Windows 7 and Vista, they still have a free list in use, they still have a bitmask, they still have a free list, but obviously we have this problem with chunks header encryption. Homework, if you are more interested in the subject, I recommend you guys read the paper that John Manuel and Chris Basalek wrote for the presentation in Las Vegas. And we are done. Any questions?